Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host, and we're glad to have you back. Hey, if you wouldn't mind, if you haven't already done so, if you could go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. It's on any number of channels, Apple, iTunes, iHeart, Stitcher, 30 different channels. And while you're out there online, go ahead and visit globalinvestoragent.com website. And the reason is these are all the agents around the country that are trained to work with you and I, the investors, okay? They're in half the states. They're not your traditional agent. They have access to every single property and person in the entire country, all kinds of data. It's crazy. They know how to identify, analyze, and negotiate on and off market deals for you and I. And by the way, if you're an agent, boy, you really need to go out there and check on the learn more button. Okay. This is the time in the economy and a market shift where you need to prepare. It's not time to panic. It's time to prepare, and click on that learn button and you'll learn more. Okay. And speaking of all this, we have a great guest today, Gina Hanson, whom I've known for at least 10 years. We've worked together in a couple different capacities. We now work together now as partners. And I thought, what a great idea to have her on as a guest. So if you're an agent, consider this podcast for you. And if you're an investor, you will know by the end of this podcast why you want to work with one of these investor agents. And it's a large part because of Gina. So Gina, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much, GP. Totally appreciate this.
I appreciate you taking your time to do this. I know how busy you are because I know that we work together. So I appreciate you taking this time to do this and share your wealth of knowledge with everyone. And, so people just heard me say what I said, but they really don't know what that means. Can you give everybody, paint a picture for them, a little bit about your background, how you got to where you are, and then we can go into some of the, what I call meat and potatoes,
Absolutely, Gary. Thank you. Okay, so I started real estate in 2007 up in Washington State. I built up a team, 7 of us total, which at the time was a big team. It's not anymore, but at the time it was. We were doing a couple hundred units a month. I eventually got a phone call asking me if I wanted to do a startup office in Virginia. So I moved cross country, which is where I met you. Took that office from startup investor group to 130 agents within a year. Eventually moved over to the West Coast, took over, did a turnaround company, same thing, drug it up into the black, opened up my coaching company. You actually called me up a couple of years ago, right in the middle of the COVID train wreck mess I was living in California, that California was. Said, hey, I still want to work with you. I said, you know what? Now's a good time. And we've been working together ever since. So my position on the team is I coach and train the agents, either everything from brand new, I don't know anything, and I need to get up and running as quick as possible, to teams. How do I structure a team? How do I build a team? And I have a team, and I do not want to coach the people on those teams. So it's pure residential coaching that I do for this team.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And I know there's folks, that was the Reader's Digest version. There's so much more to Gina, her husband, Greg. I mean, they're just wonderful people. And she's got a very interesting and varied background in the professional world and lots of success. It's just, she's one of those rare individuals that puts in her heart, time, discipline, energy, everything required to succeed. It's just, success is an inside job. And, some of these character traits, some people are born with it, some people are not. Gina's one of those folks that was actually born with this stuff. And that's why I knew when I was going to launch this national team, we call them investor agents, that I didn't want just one, but needed Gina, as a partner to help make this go. And as of today, as far as number of states represented, as far as I know, we're the largest national team out there, not a brokerage, we're a team. And we certainly work with owner occupants, but we really have that special focus on investors. We've got an entire platform, training, coaching, marketing, even a lead system that gives us access to every property, every person in the entire country. And it's all for free. So, as you can imagine, it wasn't easy pulling this off. And we've been putting a lot of hours, a lot of weekends, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But here we are. Now the we've hit our tipping point, and people are now seeking us out on a regular basis, and I think you should be one of them. So if you could, Gina, what would you say, going, digging back in the archives of the life of Gina, what are one, two, maybe three things you can think of that led to where you are now, and actually enabled you or empowered you to be able to do what you're doing at such a high level? Something you learned from a grandparent, something you learned from your first boss, things you just developed on your own. But if digging a little bit there, because I want people to really realize how broad and deep your skills and your talent really are. It's not just that you can coach people to get more transactions. There's a lot more that goes into it than that, and I want these folks to hear some of it. If you don't mind sharing,
All right. So that's a great question, Gary. Let me think for a second. The first one that comes to mind, when I was a kid, we flipped houses before anybody flipped houses. And I grew up with a single mom, back when single moms were not a thing, and she needed to figure out how to augment her income. And she came up with purchasing rundown houses, the ugliest house in the neighborhood. That's what we always bought. We'd buy the ugliest house in the neighborhood, which meant that the neighbors hated us moving in because it was just another person moving into the ugliest house in the neighborhood. And then we would spend 6 months or a year, sometimes 2, and we would fix up that whole entire house inside and outside, and then we'd turn around and sell it. So we moved a lot when I was a kid, a lot. So I've lived in over 60 different houses. I've lived all over the place. The thing that was brilliant that she did, though, that really taught me this great lesson of thinking outside the box, is in order to find those houses, she wasn't a real estate agent. She didn't know anything about real estate agent. What she did was she would read the newspapers, and in those days, the newspapers had the planning commission in the back of the paper. So she would read that, and they also published the upcoming divorces. And she put those two together. They're going to build a bridge over here that should open up property values over there on the other side of that bridge, and these people are getting divorced. And then we drove for dollars and we door knocked, and that's what we did. And she would put together those things. Divorced houses a lot of times had holes in the walls and had been neglected, and they were just the ugliest houses.
You mean people going through divorce weren't getting along and they were fighting and stuff like that?
It was crazy. Really crazy. But what it allowed me to do is it allowed me to think outside the box. It also allowed me to be able to walk into any house, because I've been doing this ever since I was a little kid, and we fixed them up ourselves. So we didn't have a crew. We actually did all the work. But I can look at something that had red shag carpeting that was actually up on the walls, or every room's a different color, or they all had holes in the walls, or whatever it was, and see past it to the bones and go, no, there's good bones here. This will work. And that is one of the things that I've definitely brought into real estate, that being able to see past the outside and being able to think differently and solve problems. The second thing, I guess if I had to come up with a couple of them, the other one would be I'm a puzzle geek. I love anything to do with trying to figure things out. So one of my nicknames is Loophole Girl, because I don't break the rules, but I do look for a way under, over, around, or through. And I have definitely, when I was actively being an agent, my broker got a lot of phone calls of, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? Nope, you can't do that. You can't do this. This is illegal. You can't do that either. And I never did those things. I just kept on pushing until I found the one I can do. Can I do this? Hang on. Yes, you can. And then I would go put it together. So, which is a great, I didn't know I would need it. It was 2007, 8, 9, and the real estate market had completely tanked. And what that allowed me to do is to figure out, even in the tanked world, deals still happen. You just got to figure out how to do them. And it looks different. That's all it is. So I think those two skills, being able to see past the bones, think outside the box, and solve puzzles. It's not a problem. It's just a puzzle. It needs to get solved. I think those have done really good for me in life.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. So I was taking notes as you were speaking. And when it goes back to you and your mom and your family when you were kids, there's two things. One is your mom clearly was resourceful, and that's a character trait. So that's something that's either it's genetic or it's born out of necessity. So in her case, maybe it was born out of necessity, or maybe it was genetic. I'm not sure. But the other one is she learned to use tactics, which is, public information. What are the zoning and what are the zoning plans? What are the building plans? And also, that's kind of crazy that they were still publishing the divorces back then. I remember when they did that, it's almost like the proverbial scarlet letter A, in this case, the big letter D,
Mhm.
and obviously I don't believe any municipalities do that anymore. Some things are still published in the paper. There are certain things that the law requires, like certain notices when somebody's going into default, the notice of default,
Mhm.
or bankruptcy, foreclosure, things like that. It's just, well, I don't think they publish foreclosure anymore, but I think bankruptcy they do. It's crazy and I don't know that it was really meant to embarrass the person. It was just meant to notify people who may need to be aware. Oh, wait a minute, this person's declaring bankruptcy. This couple's going through divorce. I just sold them a car and they're both on the car loan, or I sold them, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. That's why they
Yeah.
were doing it.
Yeah.
So for me, the two lessons were, being resourceful and utilizing whatever's out there as far as any strategy or tactic. In this case, what's published in the paper. And the second part with you playing games, the first thing that came to mind is, being persistent and resilient. When you have a game to play, obviously, if you just flipped the switch and the money came out, it wouldn't be much of a game. It'd be over in seconds. So a good game requires you to be patient, be persistent, be disciplined, and just have that tenacity to not give up and the ambition to win. And you definitely have that. I mean, guys, for everybody here listening, and I'm speaking to you agents right now. If you've been looking for that person, that special person like a mentor, that you hope you can just, some of her energy will rub off on you and you will absorb some of her talents and character traits. Gina's one of them. I mean, I'm talking like, if you had a scale of energy 1 to 10, she's an 11. So, and I thought that was, ambitious and had a lot of stamina, but I'm telling you, there's most days when I get started, she's already started. When I'm wrapping up, she's still going, and that's saying a lot. So in any case, those are and the vision was the other thing too. So when it came to the, looking at a place that had the red shag carpet hanging on the wall,
Mhm.
being able to look at a piece of property the way it is now and visualize what it can be so clearly that it's a good deal. The job that has to be done. It can be done, and it's just a matter of applying the internal skills you have. Character traits. Discipline, persistence. Those things. That's really the secret, guys. I mean, being able to visualize things is absolutely critical in life. Whether it's in your business, your relationships, your investments, the activities you're engaged in, be it paddleboarding, bike riding, kayaking, you've got to be able to visualize yourself doing those things successfully. So it's like it's carrot that pulls you forward. So in any case, I'm talking way too much here. So let's talk about when it comes to coaching. Would you mind sharing, if you got a case study or two, a particular student that in your mind really, was a really good example of what happens when you are properly coached, and follow up that with maybe a little bit of a boilerplate, like are there 10 steps you follow or 5 steps or 3 steps with everybody to be able to determine, what that coaching is going to look like. So kind of a 2-part question, Gina, if you don't mind, an example and then a little bit of what people should expect when they do engage a coach.
Oh, I love this question,
Mhm.
especially because one of the things that you reminded me of as you were talking is a third thing that actually happened out of that moving so many times and going so many places, that you said that it's the thing that will pull you through, the visualization that will pull you through.
Mhm.
When you move as a kid over and over and over and over again, you get to write new stories every time you move to a new school or a new area, and you get to tell whatever stories you want to tell because they're your stories and you don't have a past. You are brand new in this area. Your stories are your identity, and that's part of your vision of who you see that you are.
Mhm.
That is what good coaching does. Good coaching helps you come into your identity of who you are as a human being. There's a big difference between coaching skills and then opening up awareness to who you are and coaching division. I can teach skills all day long. We sold a couple of 100 houses a year. We know how to do it. It's the same skills. It doesn't really matter what's going on in the industry. It's always the same basic skills. But if you don't have the identity and the vision to see yourself doing it, you just won't do it. You just won't. So for the person out there who's like, just tell me, do A or do B and do C, and I will go do A, B, C. A lot of times that can be true because you already can see yourself doing it. When you can't see yourself, I can teach you A, B, or C, and it's never going to make any difference. So to that end, I believe we are the stories that we tell about our lives. That's what I believe that we absolutely are. So whatever that story is that we tell ourselves, that's what we are. Change a story, change your life, change the world. That's just flat out what coaching will do. Coaching can help you change those stories. So for instance, I had a girl that I was coaching, and she told me a couple of weeks ago, she said, I don't know if I'm going to stay in the industry or not. I just can't figure it out. Mm-hmm. And so I gave her some homework and told her to call me back up when the homework was done. So she called me back up and said, hey, look, I already know the answer that you're going to tell me. You're going to tell me to go make more phone calls. I'm not doing it. I'm not making phone calls. I hate making phone calls. I'm never going to do it. All right, fair enough. So we started with that premise. She clearly decided she was going to stay in the industry, but she was not going to make phone calls. So then we did a skill called chunking up. And what chunking up is chunking up takes, what do you want? And what does it look like? And why is that important? And why is that important? And what I'm working on doing is moving you from want, which want is technically a place of lack. We want something, so we lack. I want to move you into intention, and I want to take you further than that, because would you agree that what you intend to do is stronger than what you want to do? Mm-hmm. It's a stronger statement. However, we also have all heard that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I intended to do this. I didn't do it. I need to take you past that to purpose. What is the purpose? Why? What is your purpose? Why is that important to you? What will that give you? What does that look like in your life? And I will keep on asking it until I get to pay dirt. And pay dirt is a gut punch of why you're doing what you're doing. Otherwise, who cares? Why do any of this, crazy stuff that we do in this world of working to do the things that we do? Why not just kick back and not do anything? Well, because you have a purpose. So once we figure out what that purpose was, and for her purpose is she wants a safety net and a good retirement, and she doesn't have it right now. And that's really a big purpose in her life. So now we know she wants to stay in the industry, and we know what her purpose is. Then you chunk down. Mm-hmm. And when you chunk down, you take it all the way down to the little tiny, minute skill. And so we took it all the way down that she knows she needs to contact more people. She knows that it's a numbers game underneath it. So now I'm going to stay in real estate, and here's why, here's my purpose. And now we're going to chunk it all the way down to, I know I need to be contacting more people. And that's when the skids came in. I'm not doing it. That's what I'm not doing. I hate it. So now we know those two things, but now we got to take it to identity. Mm-hmm. And so I started asking some questions about who she is. And what does she believe in? And what does she value? Because I'm trying to dig into who she is as a human being. And she finally came out and said, I'm not a salesperson. That's gross. I was like, all right, now we're working with something. Because somebody who identifies a salesperson as gross, Gary, would you agree, probably not going to make phone calls. Right. Yeah. Probably not going to connect. So that's cool. That's great. Awesome. Don't be that, because I don't want you to be that. It's called real estate for a reason, because I want you to be real. Mm-hmm. So what is real? Who are you? And we came up with, she's a connector. That's what she does. She connects people all day long. Mm-hmm. She loves doing that. Okay. Now that we have your identity of who you are a connector, and you have your purpose. So what do you want to do with that? And she said, well, I want to connect people. I like connecting people. I'm like, awesome. What does that look like? When the call was done, our 30-minute coaching call was done, she has a passion and a purpose for connecting people, and she can connect them all day long. Mm-hmm. And she literally got off that phone call going, I'm going to contact and connect 10 people today. And we also talked about, she hates the framing lead generation. She loves connecting. I'm like, every single time you hear lead generation, in your head, you're going to say connecting, and you're just going to connect. That's all you're going to do. And that's what she's doing. So now she's rock starring it, and she's got a couple of deals, and that was just a week ago. So that is an example of what coaching and good coaching can do. So hang on. Did you ask a two-parter? What was my two-parter? Or did I cover both parts?
Actually, you kind of covered the second part is, is there And everybody's different. Clearly it's hard to really, you can't really like say one size fits all. You kind of have to customize the coaching. But are there certain things that you do for everybody that's that if you do those three things, you'll uncover the real who they really are and what their strengths are and things like that. So is there like a process that people go through so that you know how to work with them? And here's I'll describe it this way. I've been a trainer for years, and I didn't start coaching till the later years. But when I was a trainer, I'm up in front of a room or I'm on a Zoom call, whatever. So I'm over here on this side of the river, and I'm trying to tell everybody on the other side of the river how to cross the river, right? And most of them just don't do it. What I realized, if I coach them, I'm actually going over to the other side of the river where they are, meet them where they are currently. They're here now. We call that being present. I meet them in their present moment, present state, and then swim back over the river with them. That to me was coaching. So, but having said that, that's just my paradigm. But is there a process like, hey, like there's 10 things I'm going to do with every coaching assignment. These first three, we do no matter what. Like, the vision exercise we go through. That was my thing. I thought, boy, if I can get them through the vision exercise, then I knew how to help them do the goals, actions, and plans. Everybody kind of develops their own thing. But I know you've had some really good formal training. I mean, everybody listening, check this out. Gina is what's called a success coach from Success Magazine, the actual Success Magazine. She's one of those coaches. And that is extreme. And Gina, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I know it's very rare. Did they give you a statistic like how many success coaches there actually are? Isn't it some crazy small number? Like, you're a rare person. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for participating in the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. Also wanted to let you know that the book Global Investor Agent is officially out in print and in Kindle on Amazon. You can get it by clicking on the link right here. If you are an agent, definitely grab yourself a copy. This book, guys, was not just written by me. I also included 8 other investor agents from around the country. And I didn't just handpick them. I literally opened it up to the entire audience, and it was first come, first serve. So you're going to get feedback from brand new agents all the way up to top 25 team leaders. Some on my team, some are not on my team, with valuable insight and instructions and guidance and actual checklists to follow to not just survive but thrive in this market. I know you're looking for that advantage, and this is it. By the way, if you are an investor, grab a copy for your agent. And for everybody, all profits from the sale of the book, Kindle and print, all go to the Healing House Foundation, 100%. Thank you for doing that too, guys. Let's get back to the show.
Thank you. I don't know the actual number, but there's not very many of us. There really isn't. They are going to be increasing and running some additional training certification. But at the point that I took it, they were running, I think, maybe 4 classes a year, and maybe they've only had 4 or 5 classes. They just have not had that many.
Wow.
Yeah. So there is a small group of us that do it, and it's very cool. It's a very elite little group. I know that there's, I think, 8 on the main team, and that's it. Guys, that's crazy. There's 3 million agents in the United States alone. 3 million. Wow. There's as of this podcast, as far as I know, there's 8 success coaches. And here's the cool part about this. And consider this a shameless plug for Gina. You can work with Gina, privately. You can stay where you are and have her coach you. And just like any coaching, you have to pay out of pocket for that. It's not tied to any commission. But if you work with Gina on the team, the Global Investor Agent team, you realize you don't even have to pay till you produce. That's crazy for like one of 8 coaches in the entire country for 3 million agents, and you get to work with her, and you don't pay unless you perform. I don't know any other coach that does that, Gina, anywhere. And I don't care I know I shouldn't name them. They're all good guys. I know some of them personally. I'm not going to say any names, but they're all of them. You think about it. It's true, because I was in the business too. You pay out of pocket up front, whether you're produced or not. Here they've got you're taking the risk, but you're able to do it because you know the results. And I'll give you guys. I'll give another shameless plug.
our team results, the team we're talking about, production wise, and we just revalidated this a month or so ago. We probably twice a year we do this, is more than twice the national average for agents. That's crazy, you know. So Gina, I'm sorry, I better get off my soapbox here. But back to the what are some of the things you do with everybody that are in common? I know you do a lot of really highly customized work with people, but to determine what that is, how do you do that? How do you go about that? You know, to determine
I love
what yeah.
All right. So one of the things that we do is we do go through vision, also, which actually, frankly, I stole from Gary because it's one of the best vision exercises I've ever seen. It's a 4-step process. That's really good. I also I'm Abelson trained for DISC, and we go through DISC and we go deep into that to people's motivators also. So we combine those together on your DISC and your motivators. And we dig into another thing, which is a great little tool. If you don't have this book, go get it. It's called Strengths Finder. So Strengths Finder is not a personality. It is how you are wired and more along the lines of motivators in your life. So with those pieces of insight coupled all together, then we have a frame where we can start. Once we have who you are as a human being, we dig into what I call the wheel of success, which are the different arenas of your life, and we start working through what those are. I believe some people will coach just to real estate, and I believe that you're a whole human being, a literal whole human being. And if something's going crazy in a physical space or a environment space or any other of those arenas of our lives, then we have to go deal with that issue also. And now, full disclosure, I am not a therapist. I don't have a bunch of alphabets behind my name. So I'm not that. I am a coach, but we just coach to the real human being. So we dig into that next. And then once we have that, then we can start the work of actually working on what it is that we want to be changing and working on. There's a couple of different business models that I really like. One of them is called Reality Check. The other one's called Grow. So if you want, Gary, we got a couple minutes. I can walk you through those questions real quick.
Sure. That'd be great. Yeah.
All right. Reality Check is one that I really love. It's a great, it works in anything that's going on in your life. It's just 4 questions. That's all it is. The first question is, what do you want? And you already know that I'm going to change that to what do you intend and to what purpose. I'm going to dig really deep into that one. That is not a question that gets answered in 1 minute. It just does not. So take some time. What do you want? Once you have the answer to that, what are you doing to get there? So you're doing something.
Right.
And then the next question after, which that one's usually a pretty quick one to answer. Boom, boom, boom. Third question, is it working? Chances are the answer is no, because it's not solving the situation to begin with. And then better rethink the plan. So we can start going in. Now, in order to do this, when we start getting into the planning, I love a business model called Grow. So what Grow is the goal is, again, we start in with what do you want? And then it's changed a little bit, but it is different because now we know we've got more clarification after this of what it is that we want, intend, and our purpose. Where are you now? So not so much what you're doing, more of a where are you? Where are you because you're not there, whatever there is. And then the next one, so that's G for your goal. What do you want? R for reality. Where are you now? O for your options. When you get to options, it's not, 1 is not an option. 2 is not really an option because 2 is just A or B, and our minds will kind of shut down at 2. I want you to think crazy for options. I want you to think, well, that could never happen. Doesn't matter. Put it down anyway. I want you to have at least 5 options. When you've got 5 options, now you have options. So I was working with another girl and we got to this option stage and she was, this is crazy. And I'm like, just if it's crazy, put it down anyway. Let's just do it. She came up with 5, 6 options. The one that she said was crazy was actually the one that was sane. And that's the one she's going to do. So you never know. It sounds crazy, doesn't matter, but you want at least 5 options. And the last one is will. Will you do it? And I'm going to dig into this one. Will you really do it? Like, will you? Do you believe you can? Do you know who you are? Who are you? And we're going to dig into that. And I love that business model to actually start implementing the action steps into your life to be and become exactly who you already know you are. And I guess one more thing, in coaching, the answers are in you. it's not a skill. We all have, you can Google anything for the skills. They're all out there. Everybody's out there. And like I said, we have those too, but it really is that digging into that identity and that who you are, and you have those answers inside you. We just have to open up the awareness and the options that exist.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, I appreciate you sharing that too, by the way. I always wondered, I've never had any professional training. Well, I shouldn't say that. I've had some training to be a coach, but not at the level you have it with like the Success Magazine. I think that's just awesome. And I'm so happy that they've accepted you in the program, and I'm just proud to be your friend and colleague. And, it adds so much richness to the team and to all the agents. And so, I really appreciate you sharing that. Hey, couple more questions. I know we're getting close on time here, but I got to ask these questions. Timing, I've had agents ask me before, well, when do you think I should do this? When should I get a coach, or when should I, start working with investors or things like that? And really, to me, it's like, well, right now, but there's two things in practical terms. You always have to rationalize with people. Once they emotionally decide they're going to go forward with something, we kind of need to rationalize things. So for me, it's two parts. It's where is the market right now? What direction is the market going? That's part A. And the other part is the person themselves. Where are they? And are they just starting out today? Have they been in it 2 or 3 years? They've had success. They know they can do more. Or they may be like a 10 or 20-year veteran, like I need a jump start, So relative to those two factors, one internal, the person themselves, one external, what's happening in the marketplace, which way is the market going? What would you tell somebody when they ask you, when do you think I should do this? I know there's a short answer, but the long answer too, if you can delve into that a little bit, that'd be great.
Yeah, the short answer is now. Gary, when's the best time to plant a tree?
Probably 20 years ago.
Exactly. That's 20 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree?
Right today.
Yeah. The very fact that you're asking the questions shows me that you are ready for it, because when the teacher's ready, the student will appear. And we are anywhere we are at any given point in our life with any opportunities in front of us, because I believe that we are like the center spokes of a wheel, and all the different options that we have in our lives are all the different spokes that head out towards that outside rim. And you are where you are right now today with this opportunity in front of you right now today, because the other person is right there in the hub with you. And all we have to do is figure out, is that person heading down a spoke that's really close to mine or the same spoke? And if they are, and is the opportunity, so therefore we're going to end up going the same direction. And if that's the case, then you go down the spoke. Now, here's another caveat, going the opposite direction of it a little bit though. And that is this: as entrepreneurs, we are opportunity makers. We don't have to be grabbers or that, because we will make the opportunity. And again, if you're asking the questions, you are inside your head already making those opportunities. Yeah,
I agree. That's funny too. I've given similar answers to people when they ask me, well, when should I, like, for example, I get this a lot. Well, Gary, when should I work with investors? Don't investors only invest when the market's down? And I'll tell them, and say, actually, no, that's not true. Investors are always investing. They might buy more properties when the market's down because they're more affordable. But the reality is, really good investors are always investing. There's a famous saying in investing, which is this: don't wait and buy and wait. Buy and let the market take care of your appreciation, your rent increases, all that naturally. So that the key is be prepared, because we don't really know the exact date the market's going to turn, and real estate is different anyways because it's such a slow moving commodity. So my logic is you should always have that as part of your model. So the answer is right. Right now is the time to start. So in your career, here's the other thing in the career. Like I'll talk to people, Gina, and they'll say, well, Gary, I'm actually doing pretty good. And I say, I agree. You're doing well, but I'm pretty sure if you're entrepreneurial like I am, you want to do better. You want to just stay status quo. Are you satisfied for the rest of your life if you just stopped right now and that's your level of productions? And most professional, business-minded entrepreneurs are like, No, I want more. Because when people ask us, how much do you want? And my answer used to be, well, $1 million, $10 million. Now it's like, well, more. I can't put I can't put a dollar on it. Why would I do that? Why would I limit myself? Because it's infinite,
Yeah.
Hey, let's see, do we have time? Let's do one more quick question.
Okay.
You know how the marketplace, you've got the giant cities, New York, LA, and in LA, the first time I went out there for a conference, the LA County had a population of 10 million people, and there were 100,000 agents. That's just about 1%. 1 out of 100 people are an agent. And then another market that I was personally in, the Western Pennsylvania market, had a population of about 2 million people. But, 1% of that is 20,000. But there were not 20,000 agents. At the peak, there were 8,000 agents, less than 0.5%.
Wow.
So people ask me, hey, I'm in a small market. There's only, 50,000 people in this little town. Or again, I'm in New York. And they'll say they'll have excuse. Well, they're excuses. They're rationalizing why they should or shouldn't do something because I'm in a small town, I'm in a big city, things like that, or I'm in a resort area. There's no businesses here other than the resort. Blah blah blah. Do you have any answers for people that come up with excuses because of where they are? When they say things like that.
I love this one. It won't work here. It won't work in my town.
Yeah.
It won't work in my town. It won't work in my town. Everything works at least part of the time.
Yeah.
It really does. Now, do techniques look different? Yes. Way back when, do you remember those signs that used to have, they had the phone number, and then when the person called for information on the property, it would tell you literally as the agent, their name, their phone number, it told you information about them. So I had those, and I was in Washington State, but I worked both in the city and then I had rural stuff also, because I worked anywhere in 3 counties, anywhere an hour from my house. And the stuff that was in the city, I could literally pick up the phone and say, hey, I understand that this is Bob and you're looking for information on 123 Main Street. And Bob was like, yes, I am. Tell me, da da da. If I called rural, I could not say, hey, this is Bob. I had to say, I believe someone called from this number asking about or looking for information, and I just wanted to make sure, blah, blah, blah. That's all it was. It's a little different of a technique. It's the same tool. The tools work, the technique is different. Small towns are much more networking and getting out there, more FaceTime, where larger towns, you can't meet everybody face to face. It's a big town, but the techniques are still the same. They just are, or the tools are still the same. You just have to adjust the techniques underneath it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because there's another great old saying is, it's not that the system or the process or the method work and doesn't work. It's really a matter of the person working or not working. You gotta work the system for the system to work. And yeah, you might have to modify things a little bit based on where you are geographically, but the fundamentals never change. That's one thing to always remember, guys, is I don't care which way the economy is going, which way the real estate market is turning. The fundamentals are like natural laws. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Same thing with business. You're going to have supply and demand. Supply and demand drive everything. Demand goes up, it drives prices up when supply doesn't keep up.
Yep.
Demand goes down, prices go down because you don't have enough demand for the supply, and then eventually that seesaw will switch. The supply eventually gets tired of that and says, well, we're just not going to sell. And all of a sudden there's not enough houses for the people wanting to buy, and it's an inertia effect. So the fundamentals never changes, the point there. But hey, Gina, I know we're probably over our time limit, but this is such a good podcast, and I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I'm so glad you were able to squeeze in time to do this. I know you probably got coaching calls before and after. But for the people who are really thinking about it, they know they need that guidance. How can they reach you? A landing page, a coaching page, email? If you can share that, that would be great.
Yep. So, well, you can pretty much get a hold of me in a bunch of different ways. Garrett, do I toss my phone number out here too?
Sure, if you want to. I've done it before with other people.
You can call me directly if you want. I'm actually one of those people that have a phone and I use it. So one of the ways would be my phone number, 747-888-7772. Again, 747-888-7772. You can email me. So Gina, Gina, Gina is my coach at gmail.com. There, you can also go check me out on my website. So that is www.theworks with an S, theworkscoaching.com. So theworkscoaching.com. You can send me smoke signals. I don't care. Reach out. The market's going to get hairy and scary. And if you've not been through it before, it's real estate looks very different in the market that we're heading into versus the market that we were in. It is going to, for every real estate transaction that you did on the buyer side, if you were newer into real estate, that you had to struggle to keep your buyer's head in the game because they just made 14 offers and they lost, 14 of them and we're on offer number 15. It's going to be just as difficult on the seller side when their house has not sold again and again and again. Real estate is real estate, but it looks different in the different markets, which goes back to your question that your thing that you said about investors investing. They all invest. It just looks different. There's more flips when the market's going up. There's more hold when the market's down, but it's still investing in real estate. It always is. Yeah,
I agree. Well, thank you for sharing that, guys. So it's the theworkscoaching.com,
yep.
Right?
Yep. Yes, theworkscoaching.com.
All right. And Gina at GinaIsMyHero.com.
GinaIsMyHero@gmail.com.
Gina is my hero at Gmail. Thank you.
I did. Gina's my coach. My Gina's my hero. Y'all, either one will work. It's all good.
I'm special. I know the special email. So
yes, you do.
Yeah, I just let the cat out of the bag on that one. But in any case, Gina, thank you very much for doing this. And for everybody listening, if you could please leave a review out there on whatever your iTunes, iHeartRadio, whichever one you're listening to. Leave a review because these things, you don't have to pay for it. We do this because it's community service and there's cost to it. You don't have to pay for it. But the reviews are what makes it go around. The reviews are what allows us to grow and spread the word. And your review is part of that. So we appreciate you doing that. And while you're out there, go to theworkscoaching.com, check out Gina. And if you're an agent and you're, particularly right now, let's say you've been in it for a couple of years, but you weren't in it during the last recession and things were changing, my gosh, there is an absolute process and a method to follow to not just survive but thrive. And Gina can show it to you. So check it out. And after you do that, go to globalinvestoragent.com. Okay. And you can click on the learn more button, learn more about the team. And we can help you focus specifically on investors too, which is really going to be, again, it's going to be picking up over the next several months and years. So don't panic, be prepared. That's the key. And in the meantime, thank you for participating in this podcast. God bless you and your families, and we'll see you on the next Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.